Hello everyone and welcome to Total War Through the Ages. We're going to be moving straight into things here. First off, we have our faction leader died, and that's not good. He was actually a pretty good governor and commander, but that is what it is. It happens. Now, one thing that I wanted to kind of say about overall is that I'm starting to build the scriptoriums, as well as and kind of start progressing down that building tree, because I've since figured out that they actually help a lot in they basically just kind of, from my understanding, buff the city as a whole. So that means like the taxes, the taxes you get will be better. The efficiency of the taxation will be better. The happiness will be better. The order will be better. Just all of this kind of stats that the different settlements have will be impacted positively from the scriptoriums. We're checking the mission there. We have to capture that settlement, and that's going to be one of the goals of this video. Is to send an army down and try, if possible, to capture it. We have an army that is approaching it, and we should actually be able to get that done. Obviously, I'm talking a little bit. I already know what happens, so I'm being a little bit cryptic here. But we're going through a lot of turns here very quickly. I went through a lot of turns in this episode. This section of playing that I got. I also sent this army down here to try and explore and discover where the cities, because I know there's a settlement somewhere down here. There's a city somewhere here, and so I sent this army basically following the road to try and find where the city is. It's a little bit further south. It's not too much farther down from where the army is currently, but we'll discover that in the next turn. Like I said, there's quite a few turns that go relatively rapidly here. Now, what I'm doing with these navies is I'm sending my fleets over to essentially pick up some armies, because I have a couple armies that I'm going to start forming. I haven't quite done it yet, but here in a little bit later on in this episode, you'll see me start to gather, because I have a lot of forces here. So you'll see me kind of gather them into an army or two, and I'm going to land those onto, or I'm going to have those board the fleet, so that I can then send them where I need to a lot faster, because the travel via boats is a lot faster than over land, because you can bypass mountains and all that stuff, and of course also it's how you have to get to Africa. And right now Africa is kind of my main focus. I'm prioritizing capturing Carthage, at least at this point of the thing. Now, the important thing, that this was a big deal. Dacia, who I wasn't actually at war with, but all of the other Roman factions were, they just got beat by the Bruttii, and the Bruttii made them into a protectorate. So they are now essentially a vassal of the Bruttii, and that also means they are, of course, now, I think actually they are allies with everyone else now. So I'm pretty sure they're allies with myself, the Scipii, and Rome itself. I guess is it called the Senate, or is it Rome? I don't remember. I think it's the Senate. Anyway, that's the city. We're going to be capturing it, hopefully, relatively soon. That should be good. We are going to be getting the princeps here, and we're going to be marching them on down to capture, or to buff that army up, because I don't think the army is quite big enough yet to take it. We're currently the most advanced faction. Now, that's not going to last very long, because that's one of those titles that usually passes around. Auto-resolve, a quick battle there. The princeps just took out a little bit of an army, and we're going to try and converge these two armies together, and then we'll see if that'll be enough to actually capture the city or not. Here we go. We had I guess that the Dacia was not actually my allies yet. They offered me an alliance there, and I accepted it, because they're now the protectors of the Bruttii. That's what it was. So yeah, we consolidated those armies, and we're gonna continue to build up. And as you can see, there's quite a few edits here. Like I said, we're covering a lot of ground, because there's a lot of very quick rounds. So our objective to capture the settlement. I actually forgot. I actually forgot that last episode was when we sent the army, and the army actually was defeated. So yeah, I don't know how that slipped my mind. That was such a big deal, but yes. So that was the mission that we failed the mission to capture that settlement. And what I meant to say earlier in the episode, and what I should have said earlier, is that we're currently trying to, in Carthage, build back up our army to then send down and capture the city to the south. Now we've already failed it for the Senate mission, and there we just loaded a pretty sizable army onto the fleet, and we're gonna send it down to Africa. And now this point, just to explain what's going on here, I was checking my diplomatic relations with people, and I realized that there aren't that many factions left at this point, and I'm allies with Spain, Dacia, and Britannia, and that doesn't leave me a lot of options in terms of targets after I finish off the Carthaginians, because at this point I'm trying to plan ahead. You know, the Carthage shouldn't take that much longer to finish. Now, moving into this battle, this is a pretty big battle. I went ahead and skipped deployment because I essentially just redeploy once I actually start the battle. I start repositioning everything. And so this battle, I attacked. This was actually a really smart move on my part, if I do say so myself. I attacked the small army that Carthage had outside the city. That is a single unit, and it's a general. It's one of the family members. He's a general's unit of cavalry. And so I essentially try and send my cavalry to go and take him out and kill him as quickly as possible, because the city from within the army, the army from within the city is coming as reinforcements. So my goal is just kill the general, and this also allows me to not have to try and actually launch an assault and capture the city that way, because this is essentially, it's a way to kind of force the enemy out of the city, and you can fight them on an open field where it should be a little bit more balanced. Now, this is, so like I said, I send all my cavalry to go and to kill the general. I don't want him getting back safely to the lines of the Carthaginians. Now, I am trying to see where exactly they are, because I don't want to get distracted just taking down this one unit. But I send all 3 units of my cavalry in to kill this unit, because I just want to kill the unit, because it takes out a general, and that's good. It will lower morale. It won't actually do that much for morale, because they're technically a different army from the other one. He's not the general leading the other army. There we go. We killed him. That unit's now out of the fight. So we're going to quickly just reposition our cavalry so that we have, 1 cavalry on our left flank, 1 on our right, and you can see me kind of shifting the lines around. And this is the point in the series that you will start to notice I have my units a little more spread out here. Now, I still have them pretty clumped up in the center, but I am spreading them out a bit more. So that's good. I definitely think that will be a beneficial thing that you'll see. Now, a little bit odd that unit chased after my cavalry. I wasn't really expecting that. So we're going to use our cavalry and infantry to basically sandwich them. In fact, they're actually already routing. And yeah, it works pretty good. Now, this battle was pretty sloppy. This was a pretty sloppy battle of mine. I didn't do a good enough job of micromanaging my stuff. I got too focused on certain parts of the battle, which you will see coming up very shortly. And I didn't actually do a good job. Now, overall, I think my formation is actually pretty sound, having the majority of my infantry in the center, particularly all my heavy infantry, have the Astadi on the sides to kind of act as both as a combination of acting as a bait, but also as essentially kind of a flanking force, that if the enemy did just come in, attack my center, the Hastati could come in from the sides. And here I repositioned a little bit because I kind of need to reposition the Princeps, because my Hastati are a little bit too far away. Or actually, I don't think my Hastati are too far away. I think I should have a little bit more space between my Princeps there in the center. I think I should have them a little bit farther apart than I do. So here we mainly have the Hastati being engaged, and this is the main part where I screwed up. This is one of the big things I screwed up in this battle is, right now, I should have used that unit that I just selected, and those 2 units that you just saw me select there, I should have had them already charging in to support the Astadi, because what happened is the enemy had multiple units attacking. They had 3 or 4 units attacking 2 of my units, and I didn't respond fast enough, so that my 2 Hastati units were already beaten up pretty bad. Now, I don't think either of them routed there, but they got beaten up pretty bad, and my Princeps were not there to support them yet. I also this is a big mistake of mine that I need to get better at, is I need to remember to set all my units on guard mode so that they don't chase after units, because my one unit of Princeps right there that you kind of saw running off in the distance, they weren't set to guard mode, so I told them to attack a unit, and then they did, and then they chased that unit down, and then they got completely surrounded by all the enemies that you can see them rout. The unit's broken and routing now, understandably, because they got surrounded and massacred. So a big mistake there. And right here you can kind of see I get really focused in on this kind of the more left side, this left flank over here. I get really focused in here. And this was a big mistake. I shouldn't have been as focused in, because my goal is like, okay, I want to run their units down and do it, but I completely ignore my center of the line, and my center just starts to collapse because I allowed them to outflank me. So flanking is a really big thing. Now I still have my 2 reserve units here, and the other thing is that I didn't use my cavalry effectively. My cavalry pretty much just sat around for the main part of the battle. I used them a little bit early on, like to chase down the general, and I got one or two flanks off on the right early on, but for the most part my cavalry were just kind of sitting back, and they got charged by the enemy cavalry, which was not very good. Now this battle is not going very well. As I've said, I've made several fairly significant mistakes, which is why this battle does not end well. And at this point, I think it's fairly safe to say, I'm going to go ahead and reveal the ending. I lose this battle, but it was actually a lot closer. Like, if you look at it at this point, like, yeah, I don't have a very good chance, but I actually am able to pull off a decent amount, because these 2 units of cavalry, one of them was routing, one of them was chasing down enemies. I gather them back, the 1 unit rallied, I bring them back. I have 2 units of Princeps here that are still holding, and the enemy don't have the Carthaginians didn't have any units of elephants in this battle, which is really good, because if they had elephants, this battle would have been so much worse for me. But yeah, so I'm able to bring this unit of cavalry in, and I'm able to use these 2 units of Princeps and these 2 units of cavalry to some pretty good effect. I actually do quite a bit of damage to the enemy here. Now I still ultimately I do lose, but like I'm able to kind of run those units down, get them cut up pretty bad, and then I'm able to kind of reform here. Now the main problem is that I didn't have any Triarii with this army. And that's kind of the main thing. Like right there you can see I get taken, the enemy cavalry charge is pretty effective there. Now I'm trying to use my cavalry as much as I can to make sure that none of the small units that I've routed of the enemy reform. I want to try and keep them down as much as I can. And I'm also trying to defend my infantry from getting flank charged with my cavalry. I was a little bit too late there. The cavalry was just too far out. But we come in with a flank charge of our own. That unit breaks right there. The unit on the other side broke as well. So now we're using our cavalry trying to carry the momentum. At this point, I still thought that I actually had a chance to win this. And I think I actually potentially could. Now, right here, I probably should have used one of my cavalry to try and stop that enemy cavalry charge from coming in. But unfortunately, both my cavalry routed right there after they got charged there, so that was kind of it. That's when I knew, like, yeah, this is definitely up. But for a split second there, I thought I actually had a very small chance of bringing it back, but unfortunately it was not meant to be, and this army is pretty much going to be wiped out if I recall correctly. I don't think it really survives at all. So yeah, but overall, I think I played this battle was a very poor showing on my part. I did not do a very good job playing this battle, and I definitely learned a few things. Mainly, I need to not, and you can see all the stats there. But the main things is I need to not. Yeah, my forces melt away. There weren't enough survivors to for the army to actually survive. And 2 things. One, if I'd had a general in that fight, I would have won the battle. Definitely. I could have used, the general's rally ability would have kept my center line from folding like it did, and I could have used my general to kind of rally a bunch of my routing units. So big thing there. I want to try, you don't have to have a general with an army, but it's so good to have a general with an army, and I definitely want to try and do that. Now this message from the Senate was, I don't know. Again, I don't really know. I read the message. It didn't really make sense. Now, big thing here, we do have one of the sons of the family came of age, which he's gonna now be the general of one of our armies. So we now have two free generals here. One of them, of course, is governing that city, which is our farthest northern place right now. but the other 2 are going to be able to come down here. And this is, I mentioned earlier in the episode, I'm forming this new army here, which I've got to move, and next turn I'll be able to start moving them down, and that's one of the other armies that I'm planning on boarding onto ships and sailing to Africa to assist with the final takedown of the Carthaginians. Now, this episode is a little bit longer than the normal ones, mainly because the battle that we just went through, I didn't edit down nearly as much. When I tried to edit it down more, but I just there weren't any good parts that I could like just edit out. I thought there was too much things that I think too much of it was relevant to the battle, and I think it was overall a pretty interesting battle. I hope at least it was an interesting battle to watch. But without, we will go ahead and wrap this episode up very shortly. Like I said, again, going back, just reiterating, I'm forming up some armies in the field. I'm reforming some field armies on the mainland in Europe, because I have the one army in Africa, or I had 2 armies in Africa, both of which are now dead because I lost the battle last episode and the battle this episode. But I am going to start rebuilding up that army there. The Carthaginian army is making good progress, and now we're going to be landing the first batch of reinforcements from our homeland. In fact, the first force of guys that I'm going to land here are actually we're all actually trained in our capital city. So mopping up some rebels, just getting them out of the way. And here you'll see this. I basically shuffled around a lot of units because a lot of them had taken some casualties, so I wanted to make sure they were all full strength for the reasons that I talked about last episode. So I do some shuffling around, get that all sorted. But here we have come to the end of this episode, and just to cap us off, landing the first, like I said, this is the first batch of reinforcements. It's 1 unit of Triari and just a bunch of Princips. And that's that. So, thank you all for watching. Be sure to check back for more Total War Through the Ages. Next episode, I hope that we will make some really good progress against Carthage and hopefully capture a few more settlements. In the meantime, though, also you can check out the other series on the channel. I'm currently attempting my final run of Half-Life in a single life, but of course most of you are probably just here for this series. I need to work on my outros. I just noticed that. That outro was terrible. So hopefully in future I will have better outros.